My name is Ruckus. And I'm 10-8. All right, not sure if I set this up properly, but we're gonna give it a shot. Let's see how this works, shall we? Sunday fun day. I just want to talk about a few things. I made a few videos up to this point, but I'm gonna delete them pretty soon. Thank you for watching them, but I've got better equipment now. Things look a little more polished and professional, I guess you could say. So, but I'm still learning the software and the hardware and all that stuff, so just bear with me. We'll get it. We'll get it. Okay. Evidence. And we're talking about the Delphi case here, but this pertains to almost any case. I've done some research, in particular on Indiana statutes and appendix and stuff like that. So the burden of proof is the same, no matter what state you're in. I'm not sure about other countries, but I know in this country the burden of proof is the same. You don't have to prove your innocence, they have to prove your guilt. So they do that by evidence. Absolutely, positively, only way they can do it is by evidence. So evidence has probative value. Okay, so probative value is its value towards proving the point of fact. It's, if you have no probative value, then you have no value whatsoever. The evidence is null and void, and it's not even worth bringing it up. But if the evidence, if it doesn't relate to proving the place, time, identity, or the criminal act, then it will not be considered relevant to the charge. So again, burden of proof. So, and what do we have for evidence? Physical evidence has a high probative value. Direct evidence, say a surveillance camera catches you actually killing somebody. That's direct evidence. There's no way around that. There's proof in fact. That's you did it. And indirect evidence is, say you dropped your driver's license at the scene of the crime, or they found your driver's license at the scene of the crime. That doesn't look good. Doesn't look good at all, but it doesn't actually prove that you were there. That's indirect. Then you have inculpatory evidence, which leaks the perpetrator to the investigation. Whatever the investigation is, if you can link a subject, suspect, perpetrator, whatever you want to call them, if you can link them, that's inculpatory evidence. And exculpatory evidence, that's what the defense uses to prove that there is no link. Those two usually go head to head. They use different techniques and different presentations to try and prove that fact, whether it's inculpatory or exculpatory. And then there's corroborative evidence, evidence that supports another piece of evidence to prove a point in fact. So we don't know a lot about evidence in this case so far. So we don't know what they have and how they're going to use it. Now, if they have this bond hearing, the prosecutor has to give a preponderance of evidence. Now, they don't have to present, their whole case and bring out everything they have. I don't think they even need to display physical evidence or anything like that. Just the preponderance of it, just what you have. You don't have to bring anything physically to those hearings that I'm aware of. So if they have that, what that's going to do is it's going to show the prosecutor's hand. The defense is going to get to see what they have. Now, that could be a two-edged sword for the prosecutor and for the defense, actually, because the defense will now know what they have, but the prosecutor will see where they're lacking in their presentation of the evidence. So, but let's first talk about the charges. Okay, I've got some notes here. Because, like I said, I looked up the Indiana criminal law. You know, I've been playing with this little staple puller, and it's pretty cool because it's green. So look what happens to it. I noticed that when I was flicking it around. But Richard Allen was charged with felony murder, right? So with felony murder, prosecution has to prove malice aforethought. Okay, and that's the intent to commit an inherently dangerous felony, and is referred to as the felony murder rule, which is what they're using here. Now, I haven't heard the prosecutor say that. I've heard other people throw that term around, felony murder. I have no idea what that is. I know what murder is. That's about all I know. But in simple terms, malice aforethought is a mental state in which a person intends to kill someone else or commit an act that they know will endanger human life. So they charged Richard Allen with murder, but they put an aggravating factor on it. And the aggravating factor is he committed murder and kills another human being while committing or attempting to commit arson, burglary, child molestation, consumer product tampering, criminal deviant conduct before its appeal, kidnapping, rape, robbery, human trafficking, promotion of human labor trafficking, promotion of human sexual trafficking, promotion of child sexual trafficking, promotion of sexual trafficking of a younger child, and child sexual trafficking or carjacking. Okay, so there's something in there, criminal deviant conduct. So I wanted to look that up. I wanted to see what that brings us. Okay, so criminal deviant conduct. A person who knowingly or intentionally causes another person to perform or submit to deviant sexual conduct when 1. The other person is compelled by force or imminent threat of force. 2. The other person is unaware that this conduct is occurring. Or 3. The other person is so mentally disabled or deficient that consent to the conduct cannot be given. Commits criminal deviant conduct, a Class B felony. Okay, so it's considered a Class A felony if it is committed by using or threatening use of deadly force, it is committed while armed with a deadly weapon, it results in serious bodily injury to any person other than a defendant, or the commission of the offense is facilitated by furnishing the victim without the victim's knowledge with a drug. Yada, yada, yada. We all know about date rape drugs. Okay, so that is something like the other day I spoke about. They could have charged Richard Allen with that. They could also charge Kegan Kline with that. For the hot mess that he's in. Okay, so we know they arrested Richard Allen on 2 counts of murder with those aggravating factors. Now, and here's another thing. Let's look at the aggravating factors. Arson, we could throw that out. Burglary, throw that out. Child molesting, definitely in play. Consumer product tampering, throw that out. Criminal deviant conduct, definitely in play. Kidnapping, in play. Rape, in play. Robbery, I doubt it. Human trafficking, iffy. Promotion of human labor trafficking, I doubt it. Promotion of human sexual trafficking, definitely in play. Promotion of child sexual trafficking, definitely in play. Promotion of sexual trafficking of a younger child, definitely in play. Child sexual trafficking, definitely in play. Or carjacking, toss that one out. So there's a lot of aggravating factors here that kind of overlap. You know, promotion of child sexual trafficking versus child sexual trafficking of a younger child. I don't know where the age cutoff is there, but they're disgusting. Either way, they're disgusting. So how do we get it? Now, we've all read the transcript of Kegan Kline's interview with police. It's graphic. It's not something that you want to read, but it implies a lot of things. Law enforcement are using an investigative tactic, to where they want to just give enough information, and then they cloud his mind. Hey, do you know this person? Do you know that person? Do you know that person? Then they hammer him again. Then they lay off, oh, what about this? Hey, oh, so you're in the car? You're like, all right, yeah, okay, yeah. And then they hammer him again. Try and catch him slipping. Larry had him on one interview from back in 2017 on tape and audio. So it's not like they don't have something to substantiate what they're doing. So, and they can use that against him. Well, that's not what you said before. Even though it was 3 years prior to that, and a lot of us don't remember what we said 3 years ago, where we were, who we were with, what we were doing. But it's when you talk about interrogation techniques and investigative techniques, I mean, they were spot on. They're really good. They're really good. I haven't seen the video, but just reading the transcript, they know the shit. They know what they're doing. And just so you guys are aware, I don't know if anybody knows about this, but there's a law in Indiana now called Maggie's Law. There was a young lady who was being groomed by her best friend's dad, actually. He was grooming her. He hadn't done anything with her yet, but he was grooming her. Actually sent her flowers and cards and texts her almost every day, and she spent a lot of time with that family and stuff like that. Well, they've made it now where a parent can report that, and let's see what it'll be a level 6 crime if the person has a criminal record. So, and if he does it over a computer, it has a different protection order on it. But it's good for you, Indiana. Good for you. It's basically stopping these predators from grooming these girls. Now, Kegan Kline used like the shotgun method. He would, put it out there to so many girls, and whatever came back. Accuracy by volume is what we call that when you're shooting. If you shoot enough times, you're bound to hit what you're shooting at. All right, so Kegan Kline, right? If we go back to this, they find the bodies. Okay, we don't know what they have. They're hush hush about it, which they should be. That's good policing. So Kegan Kline and his dad go to Vegas, and while they're in Vegas, and now we know all this because of the transcripts of the interview and what little information we receive from law enforcement that implies certain things. I'm not going by what I've heard on other podcasts and stuff like that. I watch them all. I do. There's a lot of interesting things going on in chat, actually, not just on the actual podcast itself. But it's pretty interesting stuff. So, I watch it all, but I take it with a grain of salt. I ask a lot of questions. This Richard Allen talking to a conservation officer. Nobody knows who this guy is. He hasn't come forward. And I'm here to tell you, I've seen enough of these web sleuths and podcasters. They would have knew who the hell this guy is by now. They would have been knocking on his door, bothering their kids at the bus stop, everything else, trying to talk to him. So I don't believe that. Not for 100%. hot second. I don't believe that at all until I hear from law enforcement. But it just does. It really, when you think about it, it doesn't make sense. And some things I talk about, I hear other people say them. Okay, not just people are hosting podcasts, but they have guests and call-ins and stuff like that. And things that just make me wonder, do people get tunnel vision? Maybe, because I've heard this a lot. Well, they pinpointed Ron Logan on the bridge through a cell phone. He was on that bridge when the girls were on the bridge. And he was at the crime scene at the time the girls were murdered, or later that night, or whatever. But he was at that crime scene. They were able to pinpoint. Let me ask you something, folks. Why didn't they pinpoint Libby's phone then? Give me a break. Give me a break. Wouldn't it be better to use that information before she's murdered rather than afterwards? And cell phone footprints and stuff like that. This federal laws that you have to abide by. Now, Libby's phone, actually, and a lot of you people that are going to watch this, you have iPhones, and they have a chip in it called Beacon. And what that is it's a marketing tool. These companies will have these small beacon units set up in their shops, in the malls, and what have you. So when you get so close to it, it lets them know. It tells them who you are, and blah, blah, blah. It's a marketing thing. But folks, it's not. It doesn't cover every centimeter of the town. It's only in certain spots and people who subscribe to that kind of service. Now, they could have used that. They could have used a handheld unit, actually, a beacon unit, that night if they had thought about it. People are talking about, and it breaks my heart if people say this, but, law enforcement's stupid. They don't know what they're doing. They're a bunch of hokies. They called off the dogs. They did this. They did that. It really breaks my heart. These guys are working hard. I did it. I'm retired law enforcement. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And I was a jail guy. I worked in booking. I couldn't even imagine what these guys are going through. But still breaks my heart that people are this bad. This whole defund the police shit. This is what you get. This is what happens with that. All right, so getting back to Kegan. Get off track a little bit. So he gets back from Vegas. Well, he's in Vegas. He's looking up things like how long does DNA last on a body. He's looking up the Delphi murders, looking up all kinds of weird shit like that. Now, that in itself does not prove guilt or anything like that, but it does. It's corroborative. I confuse this word with collaborative all the time, but this with ours, corroborative. When you put the totality of all the evidence together, a reasonable person. Now, of course, Kegan's sitting there lying through his teeth saying, well, you're going to arrest everybody that looked up the Delphi murders and stuff like that. No, of course not. Of course not. A reasonable person wouldn't think that way, Kegan. When they're sitting there in these interviews, they're not thinking about reasonable people. You know why? Because they are not reasonable people. They're shitheads. That's why they're in the spot that they're in. And some of them are scumbags. Some of them are badasses. Some of them are just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Blue-collar crimes, white-collar crime. But they don't realize you're just trying to save your ass. You'll say anything. But it's not what a reasonable person would believe. So they catch him. Right? Now, we're trying to tie... And let's just step back, one little step back. And like I said, I'm going to delete those other videos, so I want to circle around back on some of that stuff. Doug Carter said way back in the beginning that this photo and this video and this audio of this guy, a bridge guy, is the person that is responsible for these girls' murders. He is responsible for it. Didn't say he committed them. He's responsible for him. That could mean that he facilitated. It could mean that he did it. We don't know. Their verbiage has been very select and careful. So I think there's a little read between the lines there, and they're implying some things. But so they're saying that BG is responsible for these girls' murders. Well, now they are strongly implying that Richard Allen is BG. So rich guy. So what does that tell you? A reasonable person. They have evidence that told them, we don't know who this person is. We don't know who it is. Okay, we need the public's help. Look at this video. Listen to this audio. You must know him. Take the face out. Look at his mannerisms and his stride and all that, even though he's on a bridge, and listen to his tone of voice. And so they didn't know who he was. They had no idea. But they knew that he was responsible for the girls' murders. So now they've arrested Richard Allen. And Doug Carter is strongly implying that he is bridge guy by saying that, and very smugly, I might add, and he's not really like that. Doug Carter's a very nice guy. You can tell he's very spiritual, and he's a good guy. I am not very spiritual at all, and I don't have any of the same beliefs that other people do and stuff like that when it comes to religion. But he's a very nice guy, period. And he has a set of beliefs that he stands strong with. So when he says something with a smirk and contentious, and when he looked at the camera, or actually at the reporter that was talking to him, and said, the judge signed the PC. Judge signed the warrant or the PC. I can't remember the verbiage he used, but pretty confident. And the prosecutor is very confident in his case. Now, please do not be swayed by what the defense counsel is doing. Their job is to implant reasonable doubt ASAP. Jump Street. And that's what they're doing. They're doing a very good job of it. They're doing some good lawyering is what they're doing. I couldn't do their job, but they're doing some good lawyering. But please don't be smitten by their comments about, the state has nothing, and we want to release everything, and we want the public's help. And no, you don't. You do not. At the end of the day, they're going to regret saying that, because they do not want to release this information. Trust me. Okay, so again, I circled around. I do it all the time. I get passionate about this stuff. So Kegan comes back from Vegas with his dad. Now, while he's in Vegas, he's looking up some stuff, and none of it's with malice or anything like that, but it just doesn't look good, right? It's corroborative evidence at best, but still, it's a seed that was planted. So when he gets back, he makes statements like, "Oh man, I'm fucked. I should have left. I had a bag packed. I was waiting for my dad to go to sleep, and I was going to leave, yada, yada, yada," which to me implicates his dad. I'm cynical. It's just the way I am. I've seen enough shit, and like I said, I'm a jail guy. I worked in booking, folks. But the one disadvantage to working in booking is I knew every shithead within 100 miles. Every fucking one of them got to see me. I didn't work 24 hours a day, but I worked 12-hour shifts. So at some point in time over my career, I seen them all. Seen every shithead in the county. So I got to deal with all of them. And there's a whole nother society out there that you folks are not aware of. I don't care what you think, what you say. There's a whole nother society out there you're not aware of that will shoot you in the face just as soon as say hi to you. I'm here to tell you they're out there. Even in these small towns, they are out there. These people are monsters. They are monsters, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Okay, but we're getting off track here a little bit. So he gets back. They take his phones. They take all his devices. Okay, and now I'm going to surmise everything from what I've read and what law enforcement has released. And I don't even want to trickle in any, because I've seen a lot of good comments on podcasts, both by the podcast hosts and by the chat and by guests. And some of it makes you say, oh, that's a good point. That could be feasible. But you still have to stick to the facts. You can't be swayed, by beauty, just because something sounds so great and smooth, and you have to stick to the facts. So we know that he had several devices, and we know that 2 of those devices had CSAM on them. And some of them real young individuals involved with it, with adults. And that's an arrestable offense right there and then. I have a friend who's a former detective, still employed in law enforcement. But when I was talking to him about it, he said, you don't do that. Because I was like, doesn't it seem fishy to you that, they didn't arrest him for 3 years? He's cooperating. There's no doubt in my mind he's cooperating. And he shut me down quick. He's like, no, you don't let a person with child porn and those kind of events that are taking place walk. He gets locked up. Toot sweet. Fuck him. If he wants to cooperate, he can cooperate from fucking jail. Not leaving him on the street. And I immediately said, you know what? You are right. God damn it. I was positive that he was cooperating. So then what? Neither one of us could figure that out. Why the fuck was this guy out of jail? Why was he walking the streets? I know they had another investigation going on, and they have to collect evidence, and sometimes collecting evidence isn't the prettiest thing in the world, but you have to do it, to get this evidence, unfortunately. And you just hope nobody gets hurt, I guess. And that law enforcement shouldn't do that. You shouldn't hope for anything. You should protect and serve, But I certainly understand there being gray area and walking a line with allowing certain things to take place to get the bigger fish. So I've seen it happen. I've been in interviews and interrogations, arrestees. We call them arrestees and pre-trial detainees when they're at a county jail. When they go to prison, they're convicts, inmates. But they would come in and want to talk to them, and they may not have 2 detectives with them, so one of us would go in there with them. And so we actually got the scene to see and hear how these techniques were used. So, I've seen some of these interviews, and I've seen some of these deals being discussed. You can't make a deal with a detective, a CI to a certain point. But as far as your case goes and helping you out with your sentencing and your charges, a detective can promise you the world, and really actually do what he can for you, but it doesn't mean anything. It's up to the judge and the prosecutor at the end of the day. So, excuse me. Get a drink real quick. See, I get talking fast. It's a good friend of mine. When I get talking fast, he'll say, "Don't your mouth get dry? Shut the fuck up." Well, my mouth got dry. All right, so I now backpedal and believe that I was wrong, that he was not cooperating at first. And actually rereading his transcripts today corroborated that. because they were talking about things that he wasn't admitting to or anything like that. You can't just say, okay, yeah, I'll work with you. They gotta have something to pressure you with, you know, to put the screws to you. So I don't know why. I can't figure that out. And it's another perplexing thing with this case. Why the hell wasn't he arrested in 2017? Just for what? Just for the pictures that are on his fucking phone. I'm sorry I get passionate about this stuff. But child exploitation, possession of child pornography, violation classification, exempt definitions, right? And this is 3542 4-4. And with the C and the 1, a picture, that's it. You're arrested. It's a fucking felony to have a picture of child porn on one of your devices, you know. And he had several of them with it. And he had a Dropbox. He had digital media. He was making it available to others. He was disseminating this filth. There's no other word for it. I'm glad I had 2 sons. I'll tell you that right now. And I know you guys can relate to this. You guys that have kids and you're older now, and your children are older. You got a 16-year-old son. You tell him to come in at 10, and he comes in at 2. You get pissed off. You get really mad at him. You might wait up and have some few choice words for him. But you got a 16-year-old daughter, and you tell her to be in at 10. At 5 after 10. You've already called the fucking police. You're riding around with a shotgun. You're gonna fucking kill somebody. So I'm glad, knock wood, I have boys, and they're both very good boys. Thank God I never had any trouble. Actually, one of them's in law enforcement. So, all right, so back to Kegan. So he gets all these charges, right? Now, looking at the transcripts from his interview, they were trying to get him to give a name of, they know there was another person using that account. There's, like I said, there's 2 devices that he used for these things. He had several others, but he did not use them for the CSAM stuff and for the Anthony Shots stuff. So they had a record of these 2 devices being logged on at the same time, at the same IP address at his house. Okay, and I wasn't aware of this before. I hadn't read this yet. I was just surmising and doing things by what I'm accustomed to, by what makes sense to me. I'm not going to call it critical thinking because I'm not the smartest motherfucker in the world, but I do have some law enforcement experience, and I have a whole shitload of life experience. So I'm cynical and abrasive at best when it comes to shit like this. So I don't have any problem putting my opinion out there, and I'm sure it'll stand the test of time. But I didn't know they were both happening in the same house. I was surmising that, listen, it doesn't take a genius to see that 2 people on 2 different devices on 2 different ISPs are logged on to the same account at the same time. It doesn't take a genius to figure that shit out, right? So, but what I didn't know is they were in the same house on the same IP address. So who was in that house? It was Kegan Kline, and it was Tony Kline. Now, I don't have a POI in this. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm just leaning towards where evidence points you. And anybody that has law enforcement experience, I don't care at what level. I've worked death row. I've worked my way up. I went into booking. I've done it all. I've done it all. You know, when we first came down here and I switched to the county, I was making $19,000 a year working on death row. So we switched to the county. I went to $34,000 a year. Well, all my buddies took the crossover to get dual certified to go on the road. Now, the county wasn't really putting anybody on the road out of the jail to start with. It was very few. So people went to other counties, stuff like that. My wife and I, we had 2 kids in grammar school at that time. She worked full-time during the day at a dental office, and I worked midnight shift at the sheriff's office. We had 2 ships passing in the night. I'm sure some of you folks know exactly what I'm talking about, because we had small kids, so somebody had to be home and take care of the kids at all times. So I couldn't take that crossover. That's the only thing that stopped me. I've had more than one person saying that you missed your calling, dude. You should have been a detective. You should have been out there doing it. But you know what? I loved my job, and I made myself valuable to the sheriff's office. I was almost too valuable to put on the road. Booking is a very intense position. It's a lot of knowledge needed. There's a lot of physical contact and stuff like that. So it's a very intense training and stuff like that. I mean, I've taken training, I've taken college courses, I've taken career development courses. I have enough credits for a college degree, for Christ's sakes, but I didn't give a shit about that. I never really did. Didn't make me any more money. Those career development courses got me an extra $120 per paycheck. That's why I did it. To be totally honest with you, very interesting. The courses that I took, that I selected, were fantastic. Sex crimes, crime scenes, evidence, interrogations. I even took lip reading and fucking sign language, for Christ's sake, but nonverbal communication. I took all kinds of courses, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the courses. It was refreshing to get out of that booking setting. Okay, so back to these 2 devices. So law enforcement knows that there's 2 different people using these devices at the same time, at the same IP address. Also, their verbiage that they use when they text and chat is different. They're different. You can tell it's different people. Some people put hello, some people put what's up, some people put just SUP, some people say yo, whatever, and they do the same thing over and over and over. Well, it was definitely 2 different people. So it was redacted, but they were saying, well, what about this guy and that guy? Well, what about your friend? And what about this and this guy or this girl? And in the case with the mask, I was actually a family friend that he was hanging around with these people a lot. And the girl that was talking to Anthony Schatz was their daughter, and she knew him very well. She had no idea that he was Anthony Schatz. How disgusting is that? He's soliciting vulgar pictures from her and stuff like that, and actually talked her into giving her address and inviting him over to hook up. Right? I don't know. I don't know what some people are thinking, but so that makes you think, right? Now, if we go back to Doug Carter said Bridge Guy is responsible for the murders, and Rick Allen is Bridge Guy. Anthony Schatz is definitely involved, because Anthony Schatz' account, which is one and the same as Kegan Kline, and whoever else was using that account at the time, was communicating with Libby. Abby didn't have a phone. So with Libby during the sleepover and during the actual day of the murders. Okay? I've heard some people say, no, Kelsey was the target and all that. You can't prove that to me. There's no way you can prove that. You can't. So get off it. You can't. I'm not trying to piss anybody off. I'm not trying to make any waves. I am a nobody. I am definitely a nobody. Like I said, I have experience. But there's no way possible for you to lean on that it was her sister, Kelsey. until I see something that says that, from one of these chats or something like that. But I haven't seen anything, nothing like that. There's so many rumors, and you all know this. There's so many rumors going around. It's like that conservation officer. Give me a fucking break. We would know who he is by now. That's all just a bunch of bullshit. I'm trying to figure out how Kegan Kline is directly responsible for law enforcement finding Rick Allen. I'm not going to say there's no doubt in my mind, because I also thought he was cooperating, but I got set straight on that by a current detective. So I'm not going to say there's no doubt in my mind, but there's too many coincidences for them not to be related. So Kegan Allen, Jesus Christ. Kegan Kline gets arrested, and then ISP signs him out for a day for a field trip. Goes to the Wabash River, and they search the river for 5 weeks. Well, after they finish searching the river, he gets this. Tossing out 5 of his cases. I've said it before. I mean, he was looking at 68 years if you did recommended sentencing, right? And these 5 cases only take 7 years off ish. So, but also they get a sealed document of confidentiality. Okay, so he now, I'm positive he's providing information. I'm absolutely positive, and he's making a deal. Now they're bumping out his court date and stuff like that, because he's working with the prosecution trying to make a deal. And hang in there with me. I know I don't like to make long videos like this. Once I get to figure out how the chat works and all that, maybe it'd be more worth it, because I can interact with people. But so what we need to do is we need to tie Rick Allen to Kegan Kline. How do we get there? How do we cross that bridge where seemingly they don't know each other? They don't interact with each other. Kegan Kline doesn't hang around in Delphi, and seemingly Rick Allen doesn't hang around in Peru or wherever Kegan lives. So there's a home that they keep talking about off of Pee-wee or Pooey or Canal Street or something. I'm sure you guys will know, Stagecoach, whatever it is. There's a home on the corner that one of those devices that Kegan has was logged in and using the ISP from that home. And they were asking him about that individual. So somehow, some way, they have to bridge the gap between Rick Allen and Kegan Kline. Now, there's no doubt that law enforcement got turned on to Rick Allen via Kegan Kline. Whatever they found in that river, or whatever information he provided, whatever they found in that river may have been corroborating evidence, but I doubt it was direct evidence. They didn't find a smoking gun or anything like that. But all of a sudden, they search his house and they arrest him on the 28th. They search on the 13th. They arrest him on the 28th. Well, I talked to that detective that I know about that as well. And he agreed that, yeah, that's about the time it takes. You got to send something off and wait for results to come back. So what does that mean? Did they find blood? Or what? What did they find between his house and the river? And that's why we talked about evidence earlier. If you get evidence that links, inculpatory evidence, links him to the crime, that's fine. You just need corroborating evidence to tie that together, and that makes it a stronger case. And then you can present it as one. Okay, so and a lot of investigators and stuff like that, They just collect evidence. They really don't put two and two together. They're like hound dogs. They know how to get this shit. They find it, they get it, and then the prosecutors and the attorneys put it together, and so they can present their case. So Kegan Kline got Rick Allen into law enforcement's radar. Okay, because he wasn't on anybody's radar. I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't care what you say about Reddit or anything like that. He was on nobody's radar. Law enforcement, podcasters, web sleuth, kiss my ass. Nobody was saying anything about Rick Allen. And if you're trying to say you did now, and not that it matters, I don't give a shit who's first. I don't. You just need to be more concerned with the truth. I'd rather say nothing for long periods of time. Just not even say a peep about anything until you can confirm it. There was a rumor going out that Richard Allen was pleading insanity, and it turned out that was wrong. That was bullshit. And I'm sorry, but we have a responsibility to make sure these things are true before we even mention them. Leaving open questions is an old tactic to play it safe. Well, I heard he's pleading insanity, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Well, it's too late. You already said it. It's out. So leaving an open question saying I'm not sure or something like that doesn't cut it with me. Yeah, it's either true or it's not. It's either verified or it's not. If you're throwing shit out there, and you should know better, you honestly, you know better than that to do that. You have a responsibility to make sure you get it right. We're not press. I've heard other podcasters saying that freedom of press and blah blah blah. No, we're not press. As soon as you introduce your opinion and your theories and you give POIs and you make suggestive comments, and you are fully aware that people are listening to you and believing what you say because they trust you, and you're making wrong statements, and like I said, introducing your opinions, you're not press anymore. You're not reporting things. You're not. It's gossip. You're TMZ, So getting back to Richard Allen with Kegan Kline. So somehow we got to tie them together. Okay, that's where everything's going to lie. Kegan is nothing. If he can give them whoever murdered these girls, they will drop all of his charges. As disgusting as they are, he's a little internet freak. It's white collar crimes. There was this guy who used to get arrested all the time over the course of 10, 15 years, and he used to tell me, Officer Nye, I'm a paper guy. I'm not a bad guy. I write bad. If you need a check, this guy can get you one. He was amazing. IDs, all of that. Paper guy, though. Not a bad guy. He's not a crook. He's not a criminal. He thinks he's okay because of that. Well, that's the way you can look at Kegan Kline when it comes to a murderer. So if he can give them the big fish, give them the murderer, I'm here to tell you, they will wipe everything. I mean, they'll do something. He's looking at 68 years. He doesn't want to do that. That son of a bitch's memory is going to get a lot better than it was during that interview. He's going to start remembering names and who was using what and doing what. Too sweet. And this just goes to show you as well. Law enforcement got every single piece of information that they could off of Kegan Kline's devices, and they still don't have everything. Okay, so people that are out there saying that you have a cell phone footprint and a digital footprint and da-da-da. I'm sorry, it's just not true. It's just not true. There's federal guidelines and laws that prevent that. Now, law enforcement can get a subpoena and they can get certain information, but they're certainly not following it. So you're not leaving breadcrumbs, guys. Nobody needs to be paranoid about if Jesus Christ, if they find, if I do something wrong, they're gonna know everywhere I went, and that's not true. It's not true. a lot of these cases would be solved already if that were true. Law enforcement can lie, and they will lie, and they do lie, and they use the press as a tool to disseminate that information, to get people to talk, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with sitting two people in two different rooms saying, hey, this guy told me you did it. And then go to the other room and say, hey, this guy told me you did it. I'm fine with that. Lie to him. Let's get to the truth. The corroborating evidence will take care of the rest. Doesn't matter if law enforcement lies to get information. As long as they get the correct information, it doesn't matter. And anybody that has a problem with it, sorry about your luck. Don't get involved with those situations. Don't put yourself in that situation. And you won't never have to worry about law enforcement lying to you. Trust me. I know people have never had any contact with law enforcement, none whatsoever, outside of having a couple beers with me. So that's where we're at. We need to tie Richard Allen into Kegan Allen. We got to bridge that gap. Kegan Allen. Jeez, I keep saying that. Kegan Kline. I was saying Anthony Kline the other day. The Anthony shots, Kegan Kline, and all the initials are driving me nuts too. I mean, I'm not used to this YouTube stuff. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for cussing or saying people's names and shit like that, but that's me. What are you going to do? You love me or you don't. There's really no gray area. Like I said, I'm a cynical asshole, and I'm abrasive at best, and apparently I'm a blatant prick. But I can live with that. So let's work on that. Let's find out what they're doing to connect those two together, because there's a lot in between them two, and that's what's going to be huge. If Rick Allen did not physically kill these girls, and there are other actors, I've always said that there's got to be more than one person involved with this. As soon as I saw it, I was like, there's got to be one more person involved. It can't be just one guy. I mean, that's crazy. That's nuts. But you can't rule anybody out. Nobody at this point. I've said forever that Ron Logan didn't do it. That poor son of a bitch. He went through hell and all that. But you know what? He may be related to somehow facilitating people meeting each other. Maybe he didn't do it on purpose, but I read enough law and statutes today where it doesn't matter. You're as guilty as anybody else. So let's just try and see what we can do with that. See if we can put them two together somehow, bridge the gap, and that'll help. As soon as they release this PC, I'm sure it'll be a little bit of help, but it's going to be redacted to hell. So hopefully the bond hearing will help. The bond hearing should be interesting, and watching these Richard Allen's attorneys are very good. There's some good lawyering going on there. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with them. They started right out the chute, trying to plant reasonable doubt. Okay, so I don't know when I'm going to do my next one. As soon as I find some more information out. I'm not one just to want to talk every day and put videos out just for no apparent reason. So we'll take it from there. If anybody even watches this, I don't know. But I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna take down my other videos. I may make one more of this type of video going over a little bit of my background and where I come from and what my angle is. And I enjoy people that are like-minded. So I'm sure there's other people out there that think similar to me anyway. Hopefully you're a lot better looking than I am. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, please. I mean, that's the only way the algorithms work. It's not about money, it's about algorithms. So thanks for spending some time with me. I hope you have a good night. I hope you had a good weekend. like, subscribe, and share. My name is Ruckus, and I'm 10-7.